Yo, what's up, movie people? I hope you're doing well. This is going to be my spoiler review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm going to be talking about all the details, all the spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, click off the video. When you do see it, come on back. It's going to be a fun ride. Let's get right to the spoiler review. Alright, so I'm just going to be reading off my notes. I got a lot of points to hit. So let's start with the trailers. Hid a lot of this movie. The main trailers, we got like 2 trailers. They showed a lot of what we first thought was like final battle scenes, but they were actually from the first half of the movie. So I'm glad that Marvel actually hid stuff from the trailers in this one, because Quantumania had struggled with a lot of the third act was in that trailer, and I think Marvel needs to stop showing third acts. And I think we didn't see mostly any of the third act in the trailers for this one. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, like I said, in the trailers for this one, we saw basically Rocket on the table and then Star-Lord crying over him. We saw Nebula carrying Star-Lord, and that's all basically in like the first 20-30 minutes. So we didn't see a lot in these trailers. We saw a little bit of Counter-Earth, but there's a lot hidden from what we didn't see in it. And so I'm happy that there were lots of surprises, because Marvel held it back, which I'm just very excited about. Like, it's not hard to just make trailers just like this for this movie. Make them for all your movies like this. Don't show the third act fights. Don't ruin it. It's just dumb when you ruin it. On our opening, the opening sequence was actually a lot slower than last 2 Guardians openings, because they usually start out fast, like the first and the second one. And even the holiday special started out pretty fast. But it makes sense emotionally, because where our characters are emotionally in this one, you got to start slow. And the song choice of Creep was excellent, and I think it worked very well. It was a little melancholy kind of an opening. We had Star-Lord being drunk. It was told from the point of view of Rocket, which I enjoyed, because this one's all about basically Rocket's story and evolution as a character. And then we got Adam Warlock's whole entrance into the film. He came in, this is the first scene, kind of like in the first 15 minutes of the movie, and his entrance into fighting the whole Guardians of the Galaxy team was really well directed, and it made it seem like the Guardians were in actual danger of maybe dying. The attack led to basically Rocket getting hurt really bad for like most of the film, and Groot had a big part to play. He wrapped up Adam Warlock in this scene. Adam Warlock basically like dismembered him, and Groot turned into a spider. And the next scene you see, Groot is like basically growing, and he's like, you can see through him. He's like a little exoskeleton. You can see all through his body. He's just growing back little by little. It's so cool. But I thought the action scene with Adam Warlock was great. We saw Nebula with a little backpack that let her fly, and she was just being really badass and cool with her new arm, and what she's able to do with that was awesome. But I loved Adam Warlock showing off his powers and Drax standing up to Adam Warlock. It was great, but it did put Rocket into like his little coma that he was in, and that basically led on to the flashbacks. The flashbacks of younger Rocket and him as like a baby were really well done, but they were very hard to watch, because it's hard to see animals go through this pain and harm that the High Evolutionary put them through. Because you never want to see animals like cry out in pain or like be in any harm's way in movies, because it's just so hard to watch emotionally if you love animals. And seeing Rocket like go through this painful surgery, and we saw him first get put into the cage, he's bleeding, his brain was just tested on, he's just in so much pain. It's so hard to watch. It's hard not to get emotional when you see those little scenes, but then you see him interact with his little friends from his little cage, and it's him, Lila, Floor, and Tooths. I think that's their names. And the scene that really hit me hard was when his friends were all killed, and it was just very sad. I was on the verge of just letting out a few tears at that scene, because the High Evolutionary is ruthless in that scene, and he did not have to do it like that. That was just hard to watch. But then you basically had younger Rocket in the flashbacks tear apart the High Evolutionary, and he just scratches his face so much, which basically led to what the High Evolutionary looked like in present day, with like his face kind of like torn out, his newer face put on. He has kind of like robotic features. and all that. So those flashbacks led to Rocket escaping, and he got into a rocket and led to him getting out while leaving the High Evolutionary dismembered in parts of his face. Actually, a lot of parts of his face, which is great because the High Evolutionary is a terrible person, and I hated him a lot. Then we go a little bit through the story here. We got the Nathan Fillion's planet. That's what I'm going to call it because I forget the name of the planet, but it's with all the people in those big suits, and basically you see the Ravengers connect with the Guardians in this scene, so Gamora joins them. I think that this is like the middle part of the film, and I think that this holds the funniest parts of the movie because it uses like a lot of funny dialogue here, and all of our characters are just here together. And you did see a clip of them in their Among Us suits, and seeing them try to talk to each other privately in that scene was absolutely hilarious. When they get into the actual planet, it's hilarious of what all these scenes are happening at the same time and how James Gunn is directing it with this script. I like that a lot, and I like the different uses of color in these scenes. I think it worked a lot because the Guardians films are all about different colors and vibrant colors. It reminded me of the prison scene from the first Guardians film a little bit because you have a ragtag team going against a lot of prison guards, and they're trying to get out. They're trying to think on the spot what to do. And so it just reminded me a lot of that scene, and I think that it really worked a lot. And there's fun action moments, and you did fear for the Guardians at the end of that scene, but Groot did come and save them by crashing into the prison structure. And I gotta say, Nathan Fillion was great in his little small role. He got me to laugh a couple times. He was awesome. I gotta say, man, it's a small role, but it's a hilarious one. Then we get to Gamora / Peter. This was a relationship that I want to touch on because I think that they were a very strong couple in Avengers Infinity War, and I really did believe that they had a lot of chemistry, and their relationship is one that I sadly missed in this film. But you gotta actually go with the actual story here, so I understand why they couldn't get back together. Like, the relationship was never going to go back to the way it was in the other films. They were never going to love each other like the way that they did, because this isn't the same Gamora, but she looked fantastic in this one, I gotta say. And I'm happy they actually found peace at the end of the day in this new relationship. They found peace. They're friendly with each other by the end, which I liked a lot. So, and I actually thought though that they were going to maybe kiss when they were on the ground with the orange creature, but they just smiled with each other because they're at peace with each other. And Gamora finally gets that Peter did love her in another life. So they're basically friends now. They're at peace. They're just never going to go back to the way things were, which is understandable for story purposes. And I get it, but I really did like what Peter and Gamora had to go through this film. I really did think that arc was just brilliantly crafted by James Gunn because he cares about the characters and their relationships. So I think that was perfect. And talking a little bit about Rocket, he is the main character of this story, I think, where we learn more from his past and where he started and where he's evolved to today. His flashbacks, like I said, hit hard emotionally, and his scenes in the final battle were some of my favorites, with him choosing to save every animal on the ship. I think that felt like a lot. And then that little moment with him and the other little raccoons really was great, and it finally showed him that he is a raccoon and he's from it showed that he is from Earth. So that was awesome to see. He wanted to save everyone on the ship, and they did save everyone. I want to talk about Counter Earth for a minute. The Counter Earth scenes looked really beautiful, and all the creatures there looked really good. I think they're mostly all practical, and it really worked for me. But I was really surprised when the High Evolutionary decided to kill basically all of those creatures and destroy Counter Earth, because he basically did it because they weren't perfect and they had flaws, which is just crazy. It's mind-blowing how evil the High Evolutionary is. Just because they had a little bit of flaws, he destroyed them all, he killed them all. But we also, when we got to Counter Earth, we also got to see the new Guardian suits, which are just fantastic. They're beautiful, they're brilliant. I love their new suits in this film. They looked so good. They stood out a lot. Just like I said, vibrant like the Guardians films. I love the new suits. I want to talk a little bit about Mantis, Nebula, and Drax. This is the trio that we saw that were stuck together during most of the second half of the film. And they all played off of each other so well, with great comedic scenes, but also great emotional and great truthful scenes. We got to see Mantis actually stood up for Drax in these scenes. We got to see Nebula actually connect with Nebula. We got to see Nebula connect with Mantis and Drax, which I really enjoyed, because these characters are like a family with each other. That doesn't mean they still fight, but they still care for each other. So I really enjoyed this trio and what they went through on the High Evolutionary ship, because they had to save all those kids from being attacked. But it's just great. I think Drax had a lot of standout moments in this scene. I want to talk about a little bit about the High Evolutionary. This is definitely Marvel's most evil villain, most toxic villain. He is probably the easiest villain to hate. I hated him a lot during this film. He was just a menace to society. He basically had animal cruelty in his blood, and he did a lot of that during the film, which just makes it so much easier to hate him. And I thought one of the best parts of the movie was having Rocket being smarter than the High Evolutionary. I thought that was a brilliant plot point, because it just adds a lot more layers to Rocket and the High Evolutionary. It shows that he's weak, and if an animal is basically smarter than him, he just wants to kill it, because he wants them to be perfect, but that he also wants to be smarter and better than those animals. And I actually hated him throughout the whole film, and that's great, because you're supposed to hate a villain. A villain is someone you're not supposed to root for, and he did not have any good. There was nothing good about him at all in this whole movie. He was just bad to the bone, ruthless, and never gonna get a redemption arc. And when they took off his mask at the end, I was like, man, Rocket did some serious damage to this guy's face. Like, holy crap, his face was torn apart. It shows you how dangerous animals are. So don't mess with them. Don't mess with animals. Don't be cruel to animals. They can literally tear you apart. But High Evolutionary, it's a fantastic Marvel villain, but it's a character that is evil to the core. But that's some good writing by James Gunn. I think it's a great villain for Marvel. I wanted to talk about our needle drop to No Sleep Till Brooklyn and the hallway fight. This needle drop was some of the best in the Marvel movies. Going from, I forget what scene was before it, but we went into the scene, and then Peter clicks on his Zune, I think it's called, and No Sleep Till Brooklyn starts playing. All the Guardians get together in a line, and they're going into this hallway. It moves so fast paced, and the direction of this hallway fight is absolutely amazing. It's probably one of the best hallway fights of all time in any action film, because every character you see doing something, and then how the camera basically follows one character at a time, is really brilliant. I think that the choreography of this fight is great. Some of Marvel's best. I think it's cool how you get to see every character fight a different creature, and the creature designs were scary, yet you actually found some cool details in them. But man, what an epic fight with an epic song to go along with it. It was a brilliant scene, and there's just so many other scenes like this. I think that a scene kind of like this, like my second favorite scene, was when Peter and Groot were on the High Evolutionary ship talking to him, and then Groot just takes out all the guns that he's hiding inside of his body. That was really cool. But this hallway fight takes the cake. It's one of the best Marvel action scenes I think I've ever seen. It was brilliant. But then we get to the final fight, saving all the creatures. I really enjoyed all the Guardians teaming up against the High Evolutionary, because the High Evolutionary was about to kill Rocket until everyone jumped in, basically got their own way against High Evolutionary. They all got to throw some punches in there, and they all got to save all the creatures, which was great. I loved it. I loved how all the creatures got saved. It didn't matter what they were, how dangerous they were. They all got saved. They all went to nowhere, where basically the ship's connected, and then all the animals got to go into the nowhere ship. And then I'm going to talk about Peter almost dying. This was the scene that I actually shed a lot of tears through, because I actually thought that Peter was going to die, and he's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Guardian on the team. And it was probably the hardest hitting scene, because if he actually died, I would just be a wreck at the end of the movie, because he's such a great character. I love Chris Pratt to death in this role, and I feel like this scene was actually scary for me to watch, because I thought he was going to die. But Adam Warlock did end up saving him. Then they had those little med kits they put on him, So Peter actually survived, which was great. I did not want to see him die. But on that, I gotta say that no Guardians actually died. So James Gunn and Marvel tricked us, which I think is great because they all got their own happy endings. The team then says goodbye, and we finally understand Groot. We finally understand what he's saying, which I think is a great ending. I think he doesn't actually speak our tone. We just, as the audience, get to finally understand one line of dialogue, what he says, and I think that's perfect. The Guardians are all going their separate ways in this scene. I think that's for the best. All the Guardians got to split up. And then a song plays, Dog Days Are Over. This is a perfect ending song for a ragtag team, and it left you feeling sad, but it also left joy in your heart. It left you happy. Like during the scene where this song is playing, all the characters are dancing on Nowhere, and it left you with some joy that these characters all got little happy endings. They all got to live out their lives, and none of them died, which I really do enjoy. Peter went back to Earth with his grandpa, and he gets a happy ending himself, which is great. But we do get that little tag at the end that says Star-Lord will return, so that is very interesting. I was not expecting him to be the one that they're going to tease for a return since he's on Earth and finally has a happy ending. So that's very interesting, but I'm happy. So hopefully it's still Chris Pratt returning, because that would be brilliant. But we did get post-credits. I'm only going to talk about the first one because the second one's just for a little bit of laughs. But the first one is basically our new Guardians team, which is brilliant. We got a new Guardians team. I'm not sure if they're going to make more movies with this new team, but this is the new team that they went with. It's Groot. He's looking bulky as ever. He's huge in the scene. He's like a lighter color in this kind of new team. We got Rocket. He's the new captain, which I think is great. At Cosmo, Kraglin. We got one of the little girls here from the High Evolutionar ship. She can speak English now, and she has some sort of power. Not sure what it is exactly. And we have, as I said, Cosmo, and then we have that little creature, and then Adam Warlock is basically the high, powerful one in this scene. And I think that this is like a really cool team I would like to see in another Guardians film, because I feel like they could play off each other so well, and I feel like the power sets are all so different, and I think that it could really work if you do a new Guardians trilogy with this team, and I'd like to see it a lot. But let me just say, Cosmo is a good dog. Don't listen to Kraglin. Cosmo is a good dog. But as I said in my non-spoiler review, I think this is the best Marvel movie of all time. It's perfect in my opinion. I had a fantastic time watching it. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. Let me know your spoiler thoughts. I want to discuss it in the comments. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.